no money, that's an asshole. It wasn't a phase.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Senior Citizen Podcast, and today we are here with a fantastic duo known as Internet Sasha.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
No, thank you guys for coming out. Amazing duo. I think like the first thing I saw you guys ever like do was the Christmas song on Instagram.
Oh, nice.
Chills. I got chills. Like it was beautiful.
Thank you. That was like our whole basically December. We decided we need to give ourselves kind of a winter break because if not, we're just like nonstop working, whether it's like content, studio, or shows. So I'm like, we need to give ourselves like a break. So we recorded all those Christmas covers in November, and then just all of December we're like posting them. But I love Christmas, so we were like super excited to do that.
No, it's so cool to do it preemptively too. It's so much easier to work like that, even though actually posting is a lot of work too.
It is. It actually is. Where I'm like, okay, we have to time it like between 12 to 3 p.m. I'm like, ugh. I don't know. Like I wanted to just schedule them all, but like Instagram has weird ways of having to schedule and collabing.
Yeah.
It's odd.
Yeah, like when you little social media message when you schedule, you can't collab.
Exactly.
And you can't pick your cover, I think, at least before.
Exactly. It has like these weird.
Someone needs to fix that, please.
Exactly.
Agreed.
No. Instagram. Come on, get it together.
Instagram, come on.
But anyways, I want to hear a little bit about you guys, how you got together doing music, and then individually, like your backgrounds, like how you got into singing and playing guitar, and I think you play like a million things at this point because I don't.
So, okay, well, we started making music together probably, I think, like 2 years ago now. We met at work at a coffee shop that we worked at, Walt Grace. And I was I've always been like working on music, writing music, mostly singing covers kind of all through high school and college. And then kind of like the past couple of years, I was like, okay, it's time for me now to actually like put music out. Like I want to be like my own artist, have my own songs and everything. So I just kind of begged him to like let me have studio time, and he did not take it seriously like at all. At first, like okay, because I was like a little flaky, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'd be like, okay, like schedule studio session, and then like things would come up and I wouldn't go, and then I was like, okay, no, it is time, like officially. And then it was just after that, like kind of nonstop. And then we'd co-write and kind of do everything together, production.
We started I brought her into the studio once and said, let's see how you sound, whatever, like what we got, let's see what you have. I fell in love with her voice instantly.
Oh, me too.
I heard her on the microphone, I was like, oh, goodness gracious. And I loved it, and then she kind of just disappeared for a bit, and then that's when she hit me up, and I was already working, I was doing a lot of other sessions, and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't have time right now, like, if you're gonna do it, this is what I charge for time. And she
sent him that Zelle payment.
Zelled me instantly.
I'm like, I want this day, this day, this day, this day, this is what we're doing. I'm like, this ain't a joke anymore. Like,
yeah.
So did something happen to cause that switch in you? Like, okay, I'm serious now?
I don't know. I think it was like, okay, I moved to, I'm from Broward, so I'm from South Florida, but I moved down to Brickell like 2021, and again, like I said, like I've always like had my instruments, played music, but not like where I could say like here are my original songs and like actually let someone listen to them. It was always like ideas in my phone or things like that, and then I could just do covers like for my friends if they're like, oh, do you know how to play this? I'm like, yeah, for sure. And then around that same time, I'm like, okay, like I really want to do this. The place we worked at is also a guitar shop, so everyone there is musicians or artists or creatives, and I was like, dang, like okay. Feels like I need, like, I know that this is what I want to do. I'm just not, like, I'm my own, like, block, I guess, like, my own obstacle. And then I was also just kind of distracted by living in Brickell, and kind of, it's easy to just be going out all the time. And I was making, like, new friends, and everyone was going out and doing things on the weekend. And it was like, I'd be out, and in my head, I'm like, you know what you're supposed to, like, you want to be home writing. Like, I want to be home writing. And then there was just, like, a day where I'm like, no more. Like, I'm gonna just start saying no and actually just doing the things that I want to do. And, you know, it's hard though. Like sometimes it's hard to actually tell people no and like become one of those people who's like, I'm at the studio like all the time. And then that's what
happened.
It became, you know.
It became.
I'm like happy about it.
The studio is your new hangout spot, basically.
Yeah, basically. I'm like, you can catch me there. Like, don't text at the studio.
And going to a studio and going out in Brickell is probably the same level of expensive. So.
Right. I'm just
Very
like,
true.
I'm like, I need to decide what to spend my money on now, and it's not like this, like, I don't know, like the facade of going out to me kind of just started to get old, and I think like I did a lot of that stuff when I was like a little younger. Like I grew up in Weston, and I felt like everyone there was in a rush to grow up, and I felt like during my first couple years of college, I got a lot of like the going out thing out of my system. And so I'm like, I'm good now. Like, I just want to do music and like kind of just shift my life into more of that, you know? Yeah.
That's so cool. I think it's maturing. So I guess that click for you was just, and not that going out is immature. It can be fun, but you do get tired.
Yeah. It's just like an intentionality, you know?
Right.
What I mean? So I'm just like, if I, like, when I want to go out, I go out and stuff like that. But it's like picking those moments where it's like, okay, like, what is going to lead to fulfillment, you know what I mean? And sometimes it does require you having to upset some people that maybe you're friends with and being like, I'm sorry, like, I can't, just because sometimes you have to pick, like, what's your dream, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I think at the end of the day, obviously you're not going to like skip out on a friend's birthday or something.
Right,
But
exactly,
just, you know, every Saturday night going out is not worth it.
I'm like, these are precious hours.
What's your background in music? How did you get to a studio, basically?
I grew up on music. My dad was a music director. As soon as I could hold a little guitar in my hand, I had a guitar in my hand. I was at 5. I've been performing since I was 8.
Oh, wow.
And at some point, I decided to get off stage. I performed from 8 to like 28. I was on stages all the time. And then I fell in love with the studio in general. I was like, okay, I'm kind of tired of the crowd and the pressure of being on stage, and I needed a moment to kind of refresh myself again. And 2020 came, and I started working on stuff in my room, and then people wanted to work with me, and I had a big bed in the room, and I was like, I can't have a bed in my room, I need to turn this into a studio. I got rid of the bed, turned it into a studio, and it just became an obsession because I was like, great, I've learned all these skills.
Right.
I want to do the thing that's on the radio, on Spotify, all these things. I want to make those songs happen.
Okay.
And so I just did it. Just bought everything I could get, all the gear I could get, and I'm still adding gear every single day.
Is it comfortable to sleep on a soundboard? Like.
Well, I got this little day bed
Okay.
that was on the side, right? And it was cute, and I was like, all right, this is gonna work. I don't care. I've got inspired by a story from Jack White, who said that at some point he wanted a drum set, and his parents were like, well, you have a bed, you have no room for a thing, and he literally took his bed out of the room and threw it outside. He goes, now I can have the drum set. And then he just started packing stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna do the same thing.
Right.
Just put the little day bed, and I was like, I'll wake up and I'll look at a studio. And that's what I've been looking at for the last 2 years.
The way you explained that story, it was kind of like some Hulk shit. Like just went and like
Yeah.
rage through the bed out.
I kind of saw like
I
a
don't
guy
want
that
this.
too, just whipped an entire mattress out like with his 2 hands.
Yeah, and I just became obsessed with making stuff in the studio.
That's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, and I love it.
In those years that you were performing, did you perform in bands
Yeah,
or
I performed
okay?
mostly in churches. I was like a worship leader, like
Okay.
creative director. I performed in different positions, drums, bass. That's where I learned most of my skills. Was I would get put in different positions, and whatever they needed, I would just fill that spot. And I was like, well, I'm gonna take this talent and just do it in the studio, because a lot of singers don't have the talent to do all that. So let me just do it myself, you know.
Okay.
It started off for me, and then it just became like, I love doing this for people.
Right.
Yeah.
Specifically working with Sasha.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
You had your rock band too, though. You can't forget.
I had a rock band.
You had a rock band.
Literally what the show's about too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
I
like,
was-
you need to mention them.
I was playing in a band called American Animal. We were crushing it. It was freaking great. We had a warehouse. We did all this stuff. But still, at some point, I was like, I just want to go do this alone. Like, I want to be in a room and just create, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened with the band? Falling out? Are you still
Yeah,
homies?
people have different visions, different dreams. One of the guys wanted to move to North Carolina. I was like, all right, well, I'm not moving to North Carolina. I'm staying here. And it kind of just became the thing. But
Okay.
now studio is my main life. Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So and you guys became an official duo.
Kind of. It started first as I was just producing
Yeah.
Okay.
for her. Whatever, she would bring me these ideas, and I would hear the track reference, and I'd be like, all right, cool, I can do that. I can do this. I can do this. And she's very picky about how she wants things to sound. So I liked that, because most of the people I've worked with before would come and have no idea what they were doing. And they're like, I don't know, I just wanted to be cool. And I was like, all right, well, that's subjective.
That's not a genre.
It's not a genre. But she would be like, no, I don't like that sound. I want another sound.
We
like
could go
this.
through like for like one hit of a drum, like like if we're using like a drum pad or something, we're going through like 50. So like
Yeah.
our sessions would take a long time because I'm
They
like,
were long.
I don't care. Like it has to be the sound that I'm hearing in my brain, or we're gonna have to try and like record it ourselves or something. And I was like very picky, and I don't know where that knowledge comes from, like, or where I'm like, it has to be this, but
Well, I
don't
think
know.
it was from my, if I may, it comes from her like history of the music she listened to is all
Yeah,
good
maybe.
music, all classic, either 90s grunge or 70s rock, and that's the
Yeah.
stuff I grew up on also. So she would make references to songs. I was like, oh my goodness, I love that song. And she's like,
Right.
well, I want the guitar to sound like that guitar, but the drums off this song. So I'd
Yeah.
be like, all right, cool. And to me, it was a challenge because I'd already grown up performing these songs. So to take them and try to replicate it in the studio was like a whole different monster.
Right.
And I started studying what the greats would do with their songs and how they would make those sounds happen. And to me, it was so much fun. Like it didn't matter if it was like a 10-hour session.
Right.
We were just going at it.
And then I think like the actual like, okay, we're a duo, it was like when we were performing live, I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to like go and tell another guitar player kind of like to do certain things. Like since we had already worked on a lot of songs at the studio, he already knew like there were like in the studio I maybe do the guitar solo, but then maybe live I don't want to do the lead guitar. Like live I just play rhythm guitar. But like we were able to like easily switch off like which songs, okay, like I'm gonna come in for the lead at this part and then you can do this part. And it was just like kind of like unspoken, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, okay, like I can't not play with you now, so like you have to, I'm like, you're in the band now, right? Like this has to be like the band.
Right.
Because it was gonna be just too hard. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it with like somebody else up there. So then it was just kind of like, okay, it's us two, and then whoever other musicians, if we can get other musicians to play with us, and you know, if it's called for that, like for a show, you know, for a live show like that, we'll get them.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Did you have any classical training? Because I mean, like for me, it's impossible to listen to a song and be like, yeah, that drum and that guitar and that bass line. It's like, there's this girl on TikTok, actually, side note, that she's like, let me recreate the song. And she's listening to it. She's like, oh, it's got a bump, bump, kick. And I'm like, what are you listening to?
No, I know. Like, okay, there's definitely people like that are to like levels that I can't do. Like, there's still certain aspects of a song that it'll take me quite a while to be like, okay, what am I hearing in the background, like that's making the sound that I like, and I have to really like zone into it. But I really didn't like get any classical training. I took guitar lessons probably starting at like age 8 or something, but it was like chords. I tried to learn how to read music when I was younger, and I was just like, I don't like this. Like my whole like learning music was always me and my mom fighting, because I'm just like, I just want to like sing my songs, mom, and like be a like rockera girl. Like I don't want to learn this little ding ding. Like they would make me learn like classical things and read notes, and I'm just like, this is not what I want to do. And it wasn't probably until I was like 13ish maybe that I had a teacher that would just be like, okay, like what song do you like that you want to be able to sing and play on guitar? And he would just teach me that, and I was like, finally, like this is all I really needed to know. And then that's kind of like just from there. And then I guess just like being a listener of a lot of music for a while, I can pick and choose like the things that I don't even know if it's just like, oh, that like, how do I say this? Like, it's not like I hear something and I know that that's like some really cool thing to do in the studio. It's more just the feeling like it gives you. So I'm going more off the feeling than of maybe like what that means from like a theory perspective. I'm just like, I don't know what's happening there with the chords, but that thing that happens in those 5 seconds, I need to do that. So, and that's kind of like, I think
like,
how we would translate it.
It was like her gut and my experience met, because I had experience studying songs. I never had classical training either, but in a lot of the style of music that I played, we would listen to songs all together and study how did they do that, let's do that on stage, and we would work at it all the time. So for her to be like, I like this, and I was like, yeah, that part's amazing. Like it was just, we knew, we would hear songs together and we would look at each other at the exact same time, like, oh,
Like
that
this
part's
moment,
so
this is my favorite
good.
part. He's like, it's my favorite part too.
So we just
you
knew,
get it.
you know, and I knew how to replicate that,
Right.
and she just knew that this is the right fit for the song. So I honestly would just trust her gut most of the time, unless it was like really off.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like 98% of the time, I'll be like, all right, let's do it, and
Yeah.
just kind of went with it, you know.
Yeah.
I think you guys both had like a really unique way of learning about music and learning how to put together music that I find super cool.
Yeah.
And the way that you're telling me about your process of like piecing together songs and whatnot, it's like you broke apart multiple jigsaw puzzles and you're like seeing what other pieces fit with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And somehow it doesn't turn into a shit show because if it's a jigsaw puzzle, it's like
it's literally crazy. And like he will like sometimes just be like, I don't know about that idea, but I'm very stubborn and I will need to see it through. So like even if it's some wacky thing that I'm like, this song like all synths now, we'll do the whole thing, and then we'll hear it and I'll be like, you might have been right about this. But it's like I can't not know, like, you know what I mean? Like if not, I feel like I didn't do my job. I'm like, I have to just see it through to know for sure. But it always works out really good. I think we are able to meet each other. Like anything that I'm lacking, you kind of will cover for. So like if I'll be like, oh, the melody should go here, and I'll find the note, but he'll be able to put the chord behind it, like where I wouldn't maybe be able to find the chord. I'll just know like where I want to go maybe.
I like it. You guys are an actual team, like
Yeah,
a real team
Definitely.
in the flesh.
Definitely.
Well, he mentioned that you liked a lot of like 90s grunge and 70s when you were growing up as a kid. Like, did you go through those emo phases, the scene phase?
I would say like peak of that phase was like 14, 15. I dyed my hair red, like black makeup.
Oh, you went Hayley Williams.
I went, yeah, and like I was like in high school and I was like one of those kids with like, I put my headphones on and like this is the part, like I feel like that was like my phase, but a lot of what I would listen to was like classic rock. So it was like Pink Floyd, and then it would go into like maybe like Nirvana and like Soundgarden and like those kinds of like 90s grunge bands. And I would just like have my headphones on and be like, I don't care about school, like I'm like in class like with my headphones on, like no one talk to me, like I'm on a different wavelength than you.
Yeah.
You guys don't get me, okay? Like I'm different. And like honestly that carried out for like quite some time where I'm just like, I don't even want to be at school anymore, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I graduated, like I found a way to like finesse graduating early because I'm just like, I was not meant to be here anymore. So the phase continues, I think.
Right.
That's kind of like, those were my inspos. It was like Nirvana, Soundgarden, like Pearl Jam, sometimes Alice in Chains, like that kind of genre.
So you were actually cool. Like in my eyes, like you were actually cool. Like I was listening to like, I mean, and even nowadays, like I go back and listen to Black Veil Brides and stuff like that, and I'm like, they were actually good. Like there's very few things where I'm like, oh no, this was absolute trash. Like,
No, and like that's the thing. Like a lot of like some of like the pop punk music that was coming out around then, like. I was like thinking about this before coming here today. I'm like, I was so basic about that kind of music that I liked like Fall Out Boy and like
I love Fall Out
Panic
Boy.
at the Disco. Like to me, that was like where as far as like that knowledge of music went. And then I had maybe like one or two My Chemical Romance songs like in my shuffle, and then like that was kind of it though.
right.
But
No.
yeah.
So you had an actual cool music taste. The headphone thing, it's funny to me because you just like brought back like war flashbacks that like obviously this has been my natural hair color. So I would buy black headphones and I'd string them through so you wouldn't be able to see them. So actual during class, like I was listening to music and it's like nobody talked to me.
I'm smart.
Yeah.
Superior.
And then the graduating early, same thing. I went to like dual enrollment for my last year of
what
high
I did
school
too.
because I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I skipped like all day, every day.
That's what I would always do. I'm like, I hate it here. I'm like, Mom, I have 2 classes that I need to graduate. Like, what can be done? I'm like,
Right.
take me. We would like have meetings with the guidance counselor, and I had good grades. Like, luckily, even though I was like, I hate school, I would do well. So it was like, they're like, okay, well, she's actually like, you know, her GPA is whatever. They let me do something called early admission, where I was able to take like 2 classes at Broward College and like only go twice a week. And I was like 17. I thought I was like the coolest person ever. I'm like, everyone's at school and I just go to 2 classes a week.
Exactly. I'm out and about doing whatever.
Yeah, I like got a job. That's when I started working at the cafe where we met.
Oh,
like
cool.
that long ago. Like the first iteration of the store. It like changed over time. But I started working like at a guitar store, 17.
That's why you were flaky. I mean, you were 17.
Literally,
Like,
I know. Literally, I was so, like, back then, I just started working at the guitar store, and everyone would come into that shop, because we sold, like, vintage guitars, and a lot of people were, like, older, like, mostly older guys. And, like, that's, like, who I was forced to kind of, like, engage in conversation with, like, all the time. And then I think it made me just kind of, like, grow up quickly, too. Because then I just go back to hanging out with, like, my friends from high school, and I'm like, oh, like, I'm like now used to talking to like old people. Like, I don't know, it's like a weird time of like kind of growing up, but I don't know, you know.
I lost contact with everybody. I showed up to graduation and they were like, oh, you're still alive? And I'm like, what did you think happened to me?
Literally.
But
That's so funny. It was such a similar story for me because I also did go to my graduation because I didn't want to miss it.
And I was
everyone's
like, who are you people?
You go to school here still? I'm like, yeah. You guys
Yeah.
can't see me, but
Right.
I'm here. It's silly.
what about you? Your influences, your
Well-
scene emo phase?
My emo phase was so different because I grew up on Christian like rock music.
Yeah.
So it was Christian emo.
Oh, I
so
love
it was more
it.
like you don't understand Jesus. Like it was like so different. So mine was like drastic. It was like POD, 1,000 Foot Crutch, Pillar, which were these like heavy rock bands, but they were like Christian lyrics, you know. So
Right.
I grew up on that and a grunge version of Nirvana, which was Christian version of Nirvana, which was DC Talk. So I grew up on those things, but most of my influence was actually like 50s through 70s because my
Okay.
parents were very controlling of what we could listen to when we were young, and that was like the biggest influence for me was like the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I grew up on Paul Anka, like that was heavy influence. Until this day, those are the sounds that I love the most. So yeah, my emo phase was completely different. Mine was like,
Did you listen to Flyleaf?
I did listen to Flyleaf.
There we go.
Yeah.
No, that's cool though. That's cool that like even though you were sheltered in a sense, it's like that's still what you
Yeah.
actually like and
Yeah,
truly
yeah.
love, and it
was
wasn't
great
like
music still either way. It was
Right.
Yeah, it was really cool.
yeah, it's not like I can listen to whatever I want now
No.
and not look at it ever again, you know?
No, once I could listen to whatever I wanted, I drastically went into hip hop. I was like,
Oh, wow.
most of high school, I just listened to hip hop. It was Lil Wayne, Eminem, and Kanye West. Like
You
that
would be
was
such good friends with my boyfriend. Oh my
nonstop.
god.
We need to meet. We need to make it
must-
happen.
I know, like I'm
Guys,
so
make
excited.
it happen, please.
Where is he? Call me, 305. Yeah, so it was. I went drastic different. And I took a break from like rock, and all of high school was just hip hop. It was like non-stop hip hop.
No, my boyfriend was really big on hip hop, and now as an adult, he's like into like a lot of like dream pop kind of
cool.
stuff.
Okay.
So yeah,
Dream
no,
pop,
like he's. But again, the manga and everything, I'm like, oh my god, you guys would be besties.
funny.
All right, so this is the point in the episode where we're gonna ask for relationship advice.
Oh,
I'm
all
excited
right.
for this.
Let's go.
I haven't read this one before either, so I don't know how out of pocket it's gonna be.
Ooh,
But basically,
I love out of pocket.
And this is from Reddit.
it's from Reddit.
The best.
Yeah. So this is a 27-year-old female saying that their boyfriend, a 33-year-old male, proposed to her on New Year's Day, and it's going to ruin their relationship. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 4 years, and he proposed to me on New Year's Day after a really fun weekend together of celebrating the holiday. It was a spur of the moment, I love you so much and want to do this right now kind of proposal, and all night after he proposed, we were super giddy and excited. He mentioned he wanted to wait to tell people until I had my ring to show off, and said he wanted me to pick out my ring so he knew I could get exactly the one I wanted. What's been off is every time I've tried to bring up anything about the ring, he seems uncomfortable. Not something he expressed, just something I picked up on. I brought it up with him 3 days ago and expressed that I wanted to be able to start telling our family and friends even without a ring because I couldn't wait to share our relationship's most precious moment with the people we love. He then told me he wasn't ready to tell people yet because the idea scares him, not because I don't have a ring yet. He says the idea of marriage was terrifying. And he needed a couple days to think about it. I felt my world shattered. I got upset and expressed that if he felt this way, he shouldn't have proposed to me to begin with because he's clearly not ready for that step. I expressed that it was hurtful for him to put me through the joy of feeling engaged to him only to rip it away a couple days later. I'm not sure where he stands on this. Basically, what should she do?
Oof.
Oh man. All right.
Ouch. That wasn't going where I expected it to go.
Right? It sounded really good at first. I'm like, how is this gonna take a turn? Like, it seems like I thought maybe she had an issue with the day, and I'm like, I think
That's what I thought
kinda
too.
cute. Like,
It's a great day.
I think it's
Beginning of
cute.
the year.
It's, exactly. It's like a nice start. You want to start like with your?
I don't know what she should do. She needs to. I don't know.
I mean, okay. My gut is always like, why on earth would he propose if he wasn't like truly ready? And like, I guess if I was in her position, I'd also be upset. Like, maybe you should have thought this through and not just like on a whim. I think maybe he felt on a whim, like it's New Year's Day, like I love her, like,
Right.
like marry me. You know what I mean? But like, that's like a serious
Thing.
commitment, a
Right.
serious, a big deal.
I think she should just call it off.
Whoa.
Yeah, she should call it off and be like, come back when you're ready.
Well, and that's
And
the
with a
thing.
ring.
The ages. Like, this isn't like
That's
a
true.
18-year-old kid. This is
Right,
a 33-year-old
He's
man.
an adult. He's
Absolutely.
an adult man.
As if he doesn't know by now what it's gonna take. Like he should have known pretty
Right.
well. Like,
And like, okay, when I heard the part, like, I'm like, okay, maybe he's like insecure that he can't get her like the ring yet or something.
Right.
But if you're committed to like marrying the person, like, you guys should both be good with being like, hey, we're getting married, and it doesn't matter like
Right.
about the superficial. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the ring is a beautiful thing, but like, you know, if you guys want to share it with your family, I don't think that that should be like a big deal. But I think, you know, before completely calling it off,
call it off, girl.
like, maybe have a chat, be like, what are your, like, where is this coming from? I don't know, like, have a serious, like, sit down conversation about
Was
it.
he must have been drunk then, because now all of a sudden he's like, I'm afraid. Well, then you weren't afraid enough to ask.
But I get you, like, maybe saying, like, take some time for yourself and
Yeah.
figure out what you
See
truly
it.
want, because, like, if that's how they're starting their engagement, like, you don't want to be the flip-flopper forever. Like, what's he gonna, like, hey, I think I want to have kids. Oh my god, I changed my mind.
Only 2 months left. What do we do?
I can't anymore. Like, what?
Nah. Call it off, girl.
Call it off.
Yeah. I think maybe.
And you chat and then maybe
have
call
a
it off.
conversation, see where he stands, and then, you know, I'm trying to get some benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe he has some trauma he's working through. I don't know. And then be like, okay, either way, like, let's take some time apart, you know, figure out what you want, and then maybe come together.
Right.
So it's a similar answer.
I've been meaning to get a dump his ass button, and I can't believe it's been this
Ooh,
long and we haven't got
that's
it.
a
Yeah,
good
just so you
idea.
could just, you know, well,
You would have pressed it.
I would have pushed it so
even
quick.
though, so I thought this one, the issue was going to be with the day first.
I thought
Right.
And then with the fact that he proposed without a ring, and then when he said, oh, to pick out the one that you want, because in my mind, like, I hate that. Like,
I agree.
I want to be surprised.
Yeah.
You should know me well enough to know what I like, and I'm not a
Especially
super
after 4
complicated.
years.
Yeah.
Right. And especially if they're not like super complicated. Like, these are things you ask
Yeah.
preemptively. Like, hey, do you like a color? Do you like a non-traditional? Do you like, and then,
What
100%.
shape do you like?
exactly, but not
Yeah.
like, go pick out your ring. Like,
Like,
that
call me
pisses
crazy,
off.
but I think when you're in a serious relationship, like, I'll just, you know, I send him things and I'm like, this is nice. Not like that's supposed to happen anytime soon, but I'm just like, so you know, like, for the future, like, keep it in a
Right.
folder and just, you know, forget it for now, but like, when you ever need to, like, look at it, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I got asked, I'm like, would you be mad if it wasn't like a diamond? And I'm like, no, I don't care. I
Right.
just like dainty, cute jewelry. Like, dude,
Exactly.
it's not that deep.
exactly. It's really like what it means than as opposed to the actual like piece of jewelry.
Exactly.
But like I've seen a trend on TikTok recently, like I've seen like 2 different videos. One girl was just talking about how she's so anxious, like waiting for it to happen, that she's like, I've been getting manicures like regularly because I feel like it's gonna happen. She's like, this is like the most anxiety-ridden moment of my life. I'm like,
My
this
goodness.
is so not like.
Oh, no, what it's supposed to be.
Relax. Like I feel like okay, if you're like worried about like the time frame, tell him like. Maybe if you want to give him an ultimatum, like not that I think that's a good idea, but like if that's you, then be my guest. But to live in anxiety every single day.
Yeah,
And then
no.
I saw another video where a girl and her like I guess like fiance or like her boyfriend at the time, they decided to do it together. So like they talked about it and they're like, we should get engaged, and like went on a little trip themselves, and then kind of were like she picked the ring too and everything. And I don't know, like I mean I'm all for people whatever breaking tradition, like do what makes you feel good. But I don't know.
I like the element of surprise.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like for that, I feel like you want to be surprised for that. So I get why she'd be pissed if there was no ring. Like you know. Maybe.
Even though she wasn't, it was totally
exactly.
fine.
It was about like
So.
him backing
That
out
wasn't even
though.
Like, why back out? But no, I had a friend that was like super anxious about getting engaged, and she was like, what if he does it wrong? What if he does it in a way I don't like or whatever? And I'm
Yeah.
like, then you say no politely and tell him, hey, try again.
Period.
Fair.
Like if he's doing like one of those like sky like marrying me things, she's like, absolutely not.
Like-
the fact you even thought I'd like this is just a sign that absolutely no.
Exactly. But it's kind of like what guys, a lot of guys aren't observant. So it's like they mean well, but
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
that.
They're just trying to be grandiose about it.
exactly. But anyways, guys, so thank you for your advice. This is your shameless plug moment, so go ahead and let that camera know anything you need them to know about Internet Sasha.
Of course, February 2nd, I'm releasing my next single. It's called Cuddles. It's a song about cuddling. It's like a punk anthem, so pre-save it. I'm gonna put the bio on my Instagram. Follow me at Internet Sasha on streaming, on like any social media platform, and yeah, that's it for now.
Thank you guys so much for coming out.
you.
Like I said,
you.
absolutely in love with your voice. You guys are super talented, and I love how you work like a team.
Yeah.
To you guys, make sure to come out and, check out the Senior Citizen Podcast, subscribe, like, engage, and keep us going. See you next week.